The complete works of Swami Vivekananda, Vedanta and its application to Indian life, Part 5. What passage in the world can compare with this Sanskrit passage? In English, so stated. There the sun cannot illumine, nor the moon, nor the stars, nor the flash of lightning cannot illumine the place. What to speak of this mortal fire? Again, where can you find a more perfect expression of the whole philosophy of the world, the gist of what Hindus ever thought, the whole dream of human salvation painted in a language more wonderful in figure, more marvelous than this? Now, upon the same tree, there are two birds of beautiful plumage, most friendly to each other, one eating the fruits, and the other sitting there calm and silent without eating. The one on the lower branch eating sweet and bitter fruits, in turn, and becoming happy and unhappy, but the other one on top, calm and majestic. He eats neither sweet nor bitter fruits, cares neither for happiness nor misery, immersed in his own glory. This is the picture of the human soul. Man is eating the sweet and the bitter fruits of this life, pursuing gold, pursuing his senses, pursuing the vanities of his life, hopelessly, madlessly careering as he goes. In other places, the Upanishads have compared the human soul to the charioteer and the senses to the mad horses unrestrained. Such is the career of men pursuing the vanities of life, children dreaming golden dreams only to find that they are but vain, and old men chewing the cud of their past deeds and yet not knowing how to get out of this network. This is the world. Yet in the life of every one there come golden moments. In the midst of the deepest sorrows, nay, of the deepest joys, there come moments when a part of the cloud that hides the sunlight moves away as it were, and we catch a glimpse in spite of ourselves of something beyond, away and away beyond the life of the senses, away beyond its vanities, its joys and its sorrows, away beyond nature or our imaginations of happiness here or hereafter, away beyond all the thirst for gold or for fame or for name or for posterity. Man stops for a moment at this glimpse and sees the other bird calm and majestic, eating neither sweets nor bitter fruits, but immersed in his own glory, self-content, self-satisfied. As the Gita says, he whose devotion is to the Atman, he who does not want anything beyond Atman, he who has become satisfied in the Atman, what work is there for him to do? Why should he drudge? Man catches a glimpse, then again he forgets and goes on eating the sweet and the bitter fruits of life. Perhaps after a time he catches another glimpse, and the lower bird goes nearer and nearer to the higher bird as blows after blows are received. If he be fortunate to receive hard knocks, then he comes nearer and nearer to his companion, the other bird, his life, his friend. And as he approaches him, he finds that the light from the higher bird is playing around his own plumage. And as he comes nearer and nearer, lo, the transformation is going on. The nearer and nearer he comes, he finds himself melting away, as it were, until he has entirely disappeared. He did not really exist. It was but the reflection of the other bird, who was there calm and majestic amidst the moving leaves. It was all his glory, that upper bird's. He then becomes fearless, perfectly satisfied, calm and serene. In this figure, the Upanishads take you from the dualistic to the utmost Advaitic conception.